We're going to get started. My name is Josh Holder. I'm the Corvette Chief Engineer. And I saw the title of this seminar about a week and a half ago. That's when I found out I was doing one. Gives you an idea of the preparation that is going to go into this. I just want to level set your expectations of what you're about to see. And the title said Josh Holder and Friends. So I started asking my friends to come help me out, join me on stage. And I got, out of the whole deal, I got one friend to help, agree to help. Everybody else says, we're here to support you. And I'm like, great, you want to come up and go cover a few slides? Oh, no. I'll support you, just not on stage. But luckily, Brian Wallace is here, and we have a special treat. You guys are going to get to see stuff I've not seen, or commentary I've not heard, I should say it that way, of his drive around the track, so it should be pretty cool. Who was here for the bash? Not me, by the way. Also, most of you. Okay. All right. You'll have seen some stuff, some new stuff we couldn't quite talk about then. I also know that there's a lot of internal folks in this room. I can't acknowledge everybody, but someone in particular that just walked in, Harlan Charles, Kim Hunt. Kirk Benyon, I just saw. I miss, those used to be my friends up here. Anyway, they can heckle along with all of you. Okay, I'll start out by talking about what's new for 26 that we couldn't share at the bash, that we now can, and it's for all Corvettes. And we made a very significant improvement to the driver experience in the interior. Big, beautiful new screens and displays. I think the most impactful thing, it doesn't sound like much, but it certainly upgrades your driving and user experience, is a wireless phone charger that's now right in front of you on the console. So you do not have to pop your shoulder out of the socket or ask someone else to help you put your phone in the center. It's right there in front of you. There's a grab handle. A lot of customers have asked for a grab handle. And then, of course, to enable all this, we relocated the HVAC, the temperature controls, fan controls, down underneath a bezel on what we call the number 2 outlet. And all of this, we were talking about this last weekend in Carlisle, all this change of this interior, a lot of it, is a direct result of feedback from you, from customers. We go to events like this. You've heard us say, you've heard Taj say for a long time, we're the most accessible program team in the auto industry. Of course, I'm super biased, but that has to be true. There's nobody else that you can come and talk to like you can talk to us, give real-time feedback, and all of you help all of us make the Corvette even better. I'm not going to read all this, some more about the displays and what's new. All this to say that we know that customers like to customize their Corvettes. And now you can customize your driving experience, even more than ever before. You can set up the center display with gauges. We have a new performance app. So for those fortunate enough to own an E-Ray, Jeremy, you know what the performance app is like. Now it's not just E-Ray specific, we're sharing it with all Corvettes. So you have a whole host of displays and gauges to look at, customize whichever way you like. The displays, the new one for us, we call it the aux display. I was hoping we'd come up with something better, and nobody ever came up with a better name. If you got a better name, I'm open to suggestions. We'll start calling it that. But we call the left display an auxiliary display. Of course, wasn't in the car before. And it's not just a display, it's a driver input device. So you can set things up it's a new way to control your heads-up display. You can display gauge information, of course, but one of the coolest things it does is allows an easy way to access launch control. So if somebody comes up to you at a stoplight and you're fumbling around, how do I get in launch control? You got quick access to it. It's also a way for you to visualize and adjust performance traction management. So pretty cool new feature. More about the new applications, kind of some of it I touched on before. I do want to talk about performance data recorder, which that's another thing that would not be in Corvette if it weren't for Harlan. He did a bunch of pushing to get that into the 7th generation car, and we made improvements for the 8th generation car, and now we've made another improvement for the mid-cycle. And one of the big things is allowing customers to view in the car lap comparison. So Cosworth, that makes a performance data recorder for us, they have a software suite where you can download your files and view them outside of the car. That's still true, you can still do that. But now you can do more of it inside the car. And then I think the most beneficial teaching tool, real-time teaching tool now, is it will show you live your lap time delta. So if you're doing laps on a track, you'll see how much faster or slower you are than your best lap. So that combined with now the visualization for performance traction management, which is also a great teaching tool, you can ratchet that up. And if you start to feel the car intervening more, you might want to step back down a little bit. That's another good driver aid with a performance data recorder that helps you get the most out of your Corvette. We've got some new interior colors. Some of them are out there. The Santorini and Blade Silver car is out there if you haven't seen that yet. Adrenaline Red is not new, but what is new is the asymmetrical part of it. So it's another way to customize your Corvette where you can have driver side, adrenaline, passenger side, and black. You can even mix and match seats. So not just the color of the seat, but whether or not you want a comp or a GT2 seat. We also have Sky Ghoul Gray with medium ash gray and habanero accents, so a tone-on-tone, light gray color with bright stitching. And then the Ultimate Suede, which isn't really new, but what is new is the Santorini blue stitching. We talked at the bash about the 2 new colors. I think everyone's seen the colors by now. I'll tell you, I spent some time in a Roswell car. Brian's spending more time in it now. And I got more attention in that C8 than I've got since the Stingray was launched. So it's a very passionate color, I'll say it that way. And most people genuinely like it. Usually if they're gonna flag you, pull you over, they wanna see it and tell you that they like it. I have had people tell me it was awful, but that's okay. It's not for everybody. I do think it's much closer to the green than a lot of people have been asking for. Something brighter, punchier. There is a lot of metallic in it that really makes it flop in the sun. I'm not gonna read all the changes we've done on here, one of which that's impactful for E-Ray and ZR1X owners is that we moved the Charge Plus button to the steering wheel. So now it's not on the console side next to you, just makes it easier to use. And then the blue from the ZR1 brake calipers, this would be the first time we're offering blue across more models. So for those that want to match brake caliper colors to their stripes, that's often a choice for most people. You can get the ZR1 brake color caliper across other Corvette models. Okay, have you guys heard about this car? ZR1X? You have? So any one of you could come up here and go through this information. I do want to point out one thing. The brakes. I don't think we talked enough about the brakes. The J59 brake system is the largest brake system ever fitted to a Corvette. And we say that seemingly every time we bring out a new Corvette, because it's true, but this time it was a big step in size. The rotors are 16.5 inches, and the front calipers are 10-piston calipers. They are massive. So there are some cars around here. You should go check it out. You might just walk by and not notice, but I'm telling you, you got to get up close and appreciate the beauty and the size of this brake package. It is giant. When we first started talking about a true performance brake package worthy of ZR1 and ZR1x, some of our engineers did a rapid prototype, so a printed version of the caliper, and brought it into a conference room where we were having a discussion about the future of brake systems, and set it on the table, and it took up most of the conference room table. The things are just massive. The rear brakes share the same pad as the J57 front brakes. So it should put in perspective how large and how capable the brake system is. The most important upgrade of it, though, is the construction method of the calipers, of the rotor. So instead of small chopped carbon fibers randomly distributed or in a ceramic matrix layer, these new rotors have a sandwich-style construction where the carbon is connected throughout the thickness of the cheek. And that results in much better thermal conductivity, which is exactly what you want from a brake rotor. A brake system is a kinetic energy transfer device. It takes the speed of the car, squared, by the way. The faster you go, square of energy goes into the brake system and rejects that all as heat. So you really want a brake rotor to be super thermally conductive, and that's exactly what these do. All right, a few may have wondered why ZR1x wasn't called Zora. I've heard that a couple of times. Maybe we're saving Zora for something else. But the decision for ZR1x was to show two cars in this family. They both share the incredible LT7 flat plane crank engine that Jordan and his team put together. And by the way, you're doing a seminar tomorrow, right? You got to check that out. That'll be way better than this. So you got to check that out. Anyway, they did some incredible work. And because both these cars share that power plant, they share the architecture, it made sense to name them as part of a family, to bring them out together in the way that we've done. They're really about choice, two different choices. First world problems. Which one of these cars should I buy? Maybe I'll get both of them. But they offer very different driving experiences at very similar levels of performance. Brian and Drew drove a massive, challenging track and were within a little over a second of each other. So the cars perform very much the same, but go about it in a very, very different way. And it depends on the choices you want to make. So the rear drive, like all rear drive cars, especially high performance cars, it's for someone with skillful perception and expert adjustment, right? You need to know exactly what's going on in that car at all times, and Brian's going to tell you all about when he gets up here. Whereas a car like a ZR1 or an E-Ray, for that matter, but a ZR1X, anything with all-wheel drive like that, I used to say, that car will reward you for doing things that are kind of dumb. Things you wouldn't do in a rear-wheel drive car you can get away with. And it allows you to get to the top of the car's capability in a much quicker way. So it's a choice to make, and that's why the two cars are together, that's why they're in a family, and that's why they share so much components. But I'll talk a little bit more about ZR1X. So like the E-Ray, we brought forward all of our learnings from the integration of the electrification into ZR1X, and then enhanced it. So it was no secret that some car like this was going to come out. It was a pretty common rumor. And if you did the math on the 1064 and the 160, you got a number that most people were projecting to be the total output of the car, and we really wanted to make that wrong. We wanted to make that math wrong. And so the electrification team pushed really hard to get more performance out of the front motor. Their first response was, well, we think we can get some more torque, which that's great. Most people pay attention to the power number. Can you get some more power out of it? No, we don't think so. How about 1 horsepower? Can you get 1 horsepower out of it? Let's just say we can prove everybody wrong that their math didn't work and we got a little bit of performance. Well, like most things and most people on Corvette, they go to work and they overachieve. And the way we did that overachievement was using more of the battery's energy. It may not sound intuitive at first, but when you use more of the energy in the battery is exactly the same as an E-Ray. 1.9 kilowatt, 80 LG pouch cells, built in Brownstown, exact same battery. But we use software to use more of the energy. And the E-Ray, the low end of battery, in other words, where we'll stop pulling energy, is at about 17% state of charge. And the upper limit is at about 80. In the ZR1X, we expanded that to 10% on the low end and 90% on the high end. So when you use more of that battery, the voltage in the cells and the current they can put into the motor go up. That means more power. But we couldn't just, like Tesla does, just change some software and give people more power, because the front motor was optimized to make 160 horsepower at that level of torque. And so when we increased that power, we had to make some changes to the front drive motor, we had to beefing up the case, and we had to change some bearings. Whenever you have gears running through shafts and you apply torque to them, they try to pull apart from each other. That's what happens. And when they pull apart from each other, the only way to react those loads is with cases and bearings. And so I've had people already ask, am I going to get this upgrade in my E-Ray? Sadly, the answer is no. That motor was optimized around the power level delivered in the E-Ray, and the ZR1X gets a slightly different drive unit, actually pretty substantially different drive unit, to enhance the power in the ZR1X. Okay, to expand on the stuff we learned doing the E-Ray, the chassis controls, I call it wizardry. The stuff that the team can do is absolutely incredible, assisted by technology, mainly processing speed. If you think about last night, we were talking about our chassis controls being befuddled by a car that exceeded 99 meters per second. That's pretty fast, by the way. But that processing speed allows us to accurately control a lot of power level, a lot of, if you think about it, handling dynamics, torque vectoring, things like that we learned on the E-Ray, and then we take it to a massive upgrade in power. You don't just apply the same calibrations. It starts to tip things over. So we had to make some changes to allow for that, but we also made some enhancements. Like the E-Ray, we have a mode called endurance mode, and that's really a function of the charge plus operation. That's meant for a track day where you just do lap after lap. The car will be consistent. Your end of straight line or your end of the straightaway speeds are going to be the same. It's going to give you a consistent driving experience. Then we have what's called qualifying mode. And like the E-Ray, this is where if you apply throttle, if you command the output, it's going to give it to you until it has no more to give. So it's a good way to get your best lap time, but on your next lap, you're likely to be out of energy. In fact, if the system did its job, you would be out of energy because we want to give you as much of it as we can while you're asking for it. So to add some intelligence to that, those two extreme modes, we have another feature now that included in the ZR1X called push to pass. So like an F1 car, an Indy car, or a few racing series where we have push to pass, we'll give you more power in that endurance mode that you can choose as the driver where to use. When Drew was on the Nürburgring, he was using this a lot. Because if you dial the two extremes, you're probably not going to get your best lap time. But as the driver, if you know where to thoughtfully exercise that expenditure of energy, you can get the most out of the car. And then we've got another performance traction management mode that we added for ZR1X called PTM Pro. The best way to think of that is it's pretty much system off with ABS. It's got a little bit of yaw stability control, but it's like the name implies, meant for pros, meant for people that really know the car and are very skilled drivers. Unfortunately, this video doesn't have sound, so if anyone wants to make their own sound effects, go ahead and do that. This is Cody Buckley. A lot of you know him. He's been here before. And he's the juvenile behavior, tire burnout, donut guy in our group. He's not alone, but he brings it on. I'm going to show that one more time. I think I'm going to show that one more time. Let's try it again. Okay. Anyway, a few of us have done this. It's super fun. But like the E-Ray, you can do a full drift in a ZR1X, but you can do it now on dry pavement because the car has so much power. You just hold the car in a near 90-degree drift on dry pavement and modulate that drift with your foot. You know, normally a rear-wheel drive car, it's like balancing a beach ball, doing really quick wheel inputs. You still have to do some steering input, but you can really balance the car with your throttle application, and it will destroy a set of Michelin tires. We keep Michelin in business. It will eat those up, and a couple of those rounds, they're gone. And so we had some extra tires maybe a couple of months ago, and as a way to go out there and relieve some stress, we made good use of those tires. I may have debeated one. That's how far we went down. But the car just chews them up, and it's super cool to watch. Maybe not super intelligent to do, but really fun to play around with. All right, more of what I've talked about that's in the all-wheel drive technology, and it's not just the battery and the motor. It affects the transmission, the engine. We have a single module that arbitrates torque between the internal combustion engine and the battery to make this all-wheel drive experience thoughtfully integrated in more than the sum of its parts. All right, now's when it gets fun. I'm going to invite Brian Wallace up here. For those that don't know Brian, he's our lead vehicle dynamics engineer, AKA ride and handling wizard. He is why I just made that comment about a Corvette being more than the sum of its incredible parts. He's why that happens. He and a few others on the team, actually many others on the team, are responsible for that work. And I've known Brian for a while. You might know his dad, Tom Wallace, sitting right there, Tom and Carla.
Hi, Dad.
So there's some Corvette lineage that Brian brings, but he is super well respected with our team. He's one of my heroes. He's going to think I'm making that up because I give him a lot of crap. I'm not making that up. I'm being genuine. But what he and the others have done here show that our team, which has, as we say, a deep bench, there's more than just Brian that can do this kind of work. Nobody else can do this. There's no other automotive team on any manufacturer that has that skill set of super capable driving, very technical know-how, the ability to read a car. Usually those two are rare. There are some race car drivers that are good drivers and can read a car, but these guys know how to fix it. So when they don't like what they're reading, they fix it. Then they go back out and drive again. And nobody has that kind of talent. It's super rare, and no company like Corvette inside of General Motors has that many people that are that capable of doing that. So I'm going to stop talking and let Brian go through it.
Thanks, Josh. I really appreciate it. Like you said, we got a real deep bench. You see two names here, myself and Drew. Aaron Link is not on that list, but he had a very impressive time in that Corvette Z06. And Bill Wise, some of you guys know, North American track record at Watkins Glen. And then he's obviously mentioned Cody Buckley and Chris Barber rode Atlanta. I mean, our team is filled with a bunch of people that are really talented and know how to take these cars to the limit. Obviously, I'm really honored to be up here and share the story with you guys and represent Team Corvette. And some of the things that I get asked a lot is the Corvette ZR1 and ZR1x. Is that exactly what the customer's going to go buy if you go to your local dealer? And it's absolutely true. It's the same Cup 2R tires that Michelin provides, exact same spec. The owner's manual, as some of you have seen, that track your cars, we provide recommended alignment specs for that car. That's exactly the alignment specs we were running with this car. And it has the same approachability features that we had in this car. The aero that Josh talked a little bit about, we added aero to this car, and it really exudes confidence, especially to track like the Nürburgring. And for me, I had the opportunity to drive the car in 2023 when we did the ZR1 development. And that's like my 6th trip to the Nürburgring, 4th for Corvette, including Z06 and Z51. So I know my way around the Nürburgring of 425 laps there. And that provided me the comfort to go set a lap at the Nürburgring. But the key thing is here, when we go and we do development driving, do our development testing, we're not testing this car at 10 tenths. We're always leaving a little bit of margin. We always have passengers. We want to make sure they're safe. We want to all come home to our family. Not that what we're doing, I don't want to come home to my family when I set this time, but I know the car's limits and I can go out and extract it like that, which is really cool. And we're going to share a video with you guys that the actual video, some of you may have seen it, some of you may haven't, but we're going to go ahead and share it and actually walk through the video. And I'm probably going to have you pause real quick because a little fun fact of difference between development and development driving and setting a fast lap is while we're development driving, there's a specific corner in the very beginning. You always, when you go out, you don't really know how much grip you have in the tire right away. You're always feeling the car out. And we're doing some tire prep. You've probably heard about race teams putting tires in ovens. We got Lee and Jeff Anderson back there. Those guys are always traveling with us everywhere we go. And they gave me a really good tire prep, putting them in the oven. And that tire's fired off, ready to go. So you know what grip you have right away, but it does take a little bit of courage and a little bit of time in the car to get locked in that first corner that's pretty high risk. So I'll end up pausing it really fast in the beginning. But we can go ahead and play that video. So we start from what we call T13, and we actually were turning around, going track reverse out of T13, which would be on your right here when the video starts. So the entrance to T13 is right there on your right. We actually came out backwards, and the start of the lap is right here. You'll see the white line go across. You can see I'm chasing the rear end. When you're trying to put some of Jordan's massive power down, you're doing micro corrections while we're doing that. But we're coming up to this really fast corner, and I'll have you pause it right about now, if you would. So that corner right there, you saw a min speed of 110. I think during development, my min speed was around 95. So this was by far the corner that had the biggest speed difference when I set my lap. But a lot of it was what I said. You don't really know how much grip you have, but since Michelin prepared the tire really well, we had to work up to it. Plus the Nürburgring, if anybody's ever driven it, it's got a lot of intricacies. There's a lot of cambered corners, and you turn in, and the car doesn't turn in quite the way you want to, but as soon as you get in that little cambered pocket, the car just turns. So there's a lot of courage and muscle memory that you get built in to work up to those cambered corners, and that's where all these Nürburgring experts come in, and we became Nürburgring experts. There's certainly some of the parts of the track that I wasn't any faster during development, but there's quite a few as you start to extract all the limits of the car.
You should all take this in for just a second. I want you to just digest. First, look at the speed, and then look at the G-force. And actually, there was a 1.9 there. So nearly 2 Gs, and then look at the throttle. He's flat out on the throttle, already going pretty fast with that kind of G-load. Imagine that experience driving that car. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. And you're also going to notice you probably don't see me track out all the way out to here. There's a reason for that. When you're trying to lay down 1,064 horsepower, you want to straighten some of those exits out to take advantage of that horsepower. And that actually, if I were to track out too far, then I wouldn't be able to set up for the left-hander. So some of the low horsepower cars, maybe you watch there, they can really take advantage of that and actually get back to the right, but they're also going slower. They're not putting down as much power as we are. So you take these little tiny tweaks in the lap, and we use data to determine all this. It's not just by, some of it's by seat of the pants, but you're using data to confirm the seat of the pants. And these are some of these areas when we're digesting the data, it was clear that these are the correct lines. And then you'll see a small lift, and you'll see the car being really bumpy. This is a common theme, so I won't pause it this much and talk this much about every corner, but there's so many, there's a reason why this is world stage, world proving ground, because it's got so much content with so many elevation changes and vertical motions in the car that if you make a car good here, it's going to be good everywhere, because you're using MR shocks to manage all this. We're using a lot of ABS control for braking corner, because one of these corners after that is a huge break into the corner left, right. So we have to have that perfectly balanced. Our chassis control teams does an amazing job of that to allow us to be very capable, confident, and the car super approachable. Let's go ahead and let it play. You'll see the bump right here. You can see it bump right there. You got to manage that, a little bit of a lift. Huge braking corner here. You don't use a lot of curbing at the Nürburgring because it can upset the car. Same with here. There's a curb on the right. It was actually slower to go over that curb for me anyway. So you'll see constant steering maneuvers through here. Corner exit just managed at 1,064 horsepower. And this here is a pretty famous corner. It's called fluke plots. Used to get airborne here, but you don't really catch any more air anymore. But it's a super fast blind corner, and unfortunately I took the curb right there. Not too happy about that, but I don't think there's any such thing as a perfect lap at the Nürburgring. And then take note of the speed right here as I enter this corner. I think it's 185, 187, a little lift, and min speed 141 right at the end of the apex curve. And if you could pause it real quick. So that part of the track, leading all the way through there, is my second favorite section of the track. It's amazing. 141 miles an hour min speed. I mean, the aero is allowing that to happen. These Cup 2R tires that these guys make, all of our chassis integration is allowing that to happen. But this part of the track is absolutely amazing. Now we're going to drop into what's called Fuchsrohr. That's the bottom of the hill. Take note of the speed and watch the lat. That's the peak lat we see in the track. It's somewhere over 2. We'll see what we end up getting here. It might flash 2.1 or 2.2 here. Go ahead and let it play, please. So it's wide open all the way down through here. And you'll see, unfortunately it's kind of shady, but you'll see right down here, as soon as I turn to the left, this is where we see our peak load. Thought I saw 2.0. Another blind unsighted corner. That's a very common theme where all of the corners are blind as you're going through, and when you have 425 laps, you know where every corner's at and exactly where you want to place the car. Coming up here is, we come up to a corner called Metzgefeld, another bumpy part of the track that takes a lot of commitment to chuck the car in there. Another cambered spot there that the car really grips up. You'll see close to 2 Gs here. And now this is actually, we call that Metzgefeld 2, drop down into Collinhard. And you notice, I mean, there's a ton of content here. Blind corners, elevation, heaving. It's 73 corners and over 1,000-foot elevation. This is all downhill through here. This is a corner up here we call miss. You miss the first apex, you hit the second one, and you almost hit the third, but you mostly miss it. Another break in turn where the chassis control guys are doing an amazing job of getting the car to break into this corner. We're about to reach the lowest elevation. This is called, it's Bridescheid is the actual corner coming up here, the left-hander, but this is actually the town of Adenau. For those who've been over there, it's a pretty famous town, and it's a really cool town to go hang out in. I mean, you're just sitting there watching cars drive back and forth as you eat outside. It's absolutely amazing. The next corner you'll see is flat out. I'm sorry, it's not flat out. It's flat out in the Z06. You have to do a slight breathe, but it's called Niki Lauda, dropping down into Bergwerk. Another cambered corner. I'd have liked to have been further inside there, by the way. I critique myself all the time. My wife asked me when I'm ever going to stop doing it. So, and this is, we call this the hill climb. And when you got 1,064 horsepower, you'll see I'm lifting a little bit to try to manage all of that power. You can see I'm adjusting the car along the way. This corner is almost flat out. That is called, oh my gosh, Kesselchen. And then this is Klostertal, another corner that's amazingly fast. You can see a common theme here. A bunch of corners over 150 miles an hour. And that's called Mood Curve. And then we're coming into this right-hander that will then, this next corner is called Style Striker. This is probably one of the slower parts of this track, and if those of you guys know where we're at right now, we're about to come up to the big carousel, and it's as bumpy as it looks. It is really, really, really rough. As a passenger, it's even worse. And you'll see I kind of move the car to the right to keep over that hump, to keep the traction on the ground there. But this right here, I mean, it's so rough. And you just pop out. The ZR1x really pops out of there with all-wheel drive. It almost jumps out of there. Another fast corner where just a little bit of brake, a little breathe, and now we're coming to the kind of switchback flowy part of the track where this car really shines. It's really good at transitions, left to right, left to right. And this corner up here is amazingly fast. You just throw it in there, and when you first throw it into speed, like it's never going to come out the other end. This is one of the few curbs that's really easy to use. You can see a lot of people end up using it. We're getting close to Brunchen, which is, for those that have been there again, this is, a lot of pictures are taken up here. A lot of wrecks too. Fortunately, none of us did that. But anyway, so you can see all the fans up here on the left, which they normally would be there, but since it's a test day, there's not a lot of people there. During all the tourist days, you'll see a lot of people there. So you can see I'm constantly managing the power. I mean, 1,064 horsepower is not easy to get through. If we pause that real quick, I don't know if you can you rewind that easily, like a space back, or a cursor back? I just want to point something, yeah. Okay, see all that on the ground right there? That's a fun little fact that some people haven't noticed. That's speedy dry. Unfortunately, the tourists dumped a bunch of coolant all over the track for about 20 sections of the track, and through our data, we know we lost about 7/10 through this whole section of the track. So, and you'll see me, I'm really fighting the car in here, and you can see where we've gone out here and tried to clean it out. Both Drew, Aaron, and I, we all did our, something that in the documentary I think that was well established, but if you haven't seen that, we actually ran all 3 cars, and we each had 6 runs in about a 2-hour period, thanks to Dr. Jeff back there and Lee and our motorsports guy that we took along with us, Zach Brown. Those guys did an amazing job coordinating that so that we could just focus on the driving, which is really important. But we definitely lost grip here. Like I said, if you go and let it play, you'll see some corrections in here while I was trying to manage it. It made it very difficult to get through this part of the track. You can still see it on the ground. That prohibited me to get all the way to the right. It caused a little oversteer moment here. and we had to check up significantly. Flonsgarden 1, we actually get a little bit of air there. You can still see it on the ground, just managing it the whole way. But this is my actual, from the time I go down Flonsgarden 1 all the way through here is my favorite part of the track. Super flowy, the car's constantly heaving and jumping back and forth. It's almost like a roller coaster. It's a whole lot of fun. And then we're approaching the small carousel, coming up in 2 turns in that corner. I think it's called sorry, I don't remember the name of that last corner. But little mini carousel, another place that the ZR1x really shines. It jumps out of this corner, which is a whole lot of fun. Now when you come into this corner here, it's leading on into a corner called Galgenkoff and onto the back straight. This is really critical. And of course, I go to criticize myself again. It touched the curb there a little bit, which is a bummer, but 1,064 horsepower makes up those mistakes really fast. So this is where you've probably seen the videos where I go 199, Drew goes 200 in the ZR1x, and it drops down in Tiergarten. And if you saw some detail on Josh's chart, he talks about the max decel occurs up here, which is 1.9 Gs, which is amazing. This is Antonio Boucher. That's this corner right here. You can see flat out about 1.6 Gs here, and this is where you see 1.9 Gs. Super flowy through here. Because I love picking on myself, I broke a tiny bit too late there. Gave up about 1/10 and a half. And then we're reaching to the end. And that's the Auctioneer lap around the Nürburgring version. Thanks, Dad. Yeah, so, something I can't stress enough since I still have the floor here. There are so many people, Josh has alluded to this, there are so many people that had a hand in this. I have an amazing team that we work with in a performance group in Milford that had a hand in this through ELSD integration, ABS development, chassis control, all of Jordan's team pumping out 1,064, their calibration team, the Tremec transmission team, and obviously all the support we have on the engineering side, making sure we have the aero that we need, and Bowling Green assembling this amazing car.
Thanks, Brian. That was awesome. That was a little bit selfish by me, because I wanted to hear it too. I kind of wonder what he's thinking through some of that stuff. Like going through flute plots. Did I remember to take the garbage can to the curb? I really like Josh. He's a great guy. That's not what you're thinking?
You're only a good guy. Angela is the better half of you.
That was awesome. All right. We're almost done, and then we're going to take some questions. I do want to cover the Quail edition. Some of you may have seen this. We revealed this 2 weeks ago at a place called the Quail. So it's not just a clever name. It's a show at a golf course, also called the Quail, that's about the latest supercar of all supercars. Everybody who's anybody is at that show. And so we brought out a Quail edition. The very cool thing about this car is it's a matte, I would call it satin. It's more satin than matte. Silver color that was developed by our paint shop right across the street. I don't mean that our studio said, go paint this color. I mean, they came up with it. Chuck Valentini and his team showed us what they could do with a matte finish. And not all colors are possible to paint that way, but silver was one of them, and so they developed this color, and it's a super cool car, very limited edition, but it's beautiful to see in person. This is where we brag about ourselves. Car and driver, we keep winning the 10 best. This is how I reinforce that your decision to buy a Corvette was a good one. J.D. Power dependability. So Corvette remains the most dependable car in its segment. That says a lot about the quality that goes into every Corvette across the street at the assembly plant, that every Corvette is better than the one before it. We're continuously improving, and we very, very closely watch what happens with our customers and their cars and make sure that we're reacting appropriately. And all that hard work shows with these third-party awards. That helps resale, another Best Resale Value Award. So those that are thinking about upgrading, maybe buying a ZR1 or something else, know that the Corvette you have now has done a great job of holding its value. Another quality award, Consumer Reports. We've had a long history and not a great history with Consumer Reports on Corvette. In the past, they haven't been very, very nice to us, I'll just put it that way. They're a very tough act to break into. The way they rank cars, if you have a year that doesn't make their recommended buy list, you have to prove yourself back in. So you don't just get on it the next year. It used to be 3 years. It may have changed. It's something like that, though. You have to earn your way in through repeat years of customer surveys. Okay, here's some build data information. I know a lot like to see this. I'm not going to go through all of this, but I'll pause here and let people take a picture. Of course, in 2025, we just started building ZR1s. So don't take this away as that our plan is to build ZR1s at 1% penetration. That was the start of our launch, and we've accelerated well past the 2025 numbers already in 26. So ZR1 will get up on its stride here before the end of the year, and we're not going to limit the volume, at least artificially, on ZR1s, and we're going to keep building them beyond model year 26. Just to look at some options, the penetration rates, Z51 is running about 50% now. It used to be substantially higher than that on Stingray. This is what usually happens to us as the life cycle ages. Of course, black wheels still remain very popular. Here's some Z06 options. Convertible is a very popular choice. It has been since we introduced the 8th generation Corvette. You get basically all of the utility with almost no compromises with the convertible, so customers choose it very highly. And then here's more stats on the E-Ray. Okay, I wanted to cover chassis and aero a little bit, and Brian can probably touch on some of this too. As it relates to both ZR1 and ZR1x, the formula is very similar. Another example of how these cars are in a family. So we've tuned both of these cars very similarly. Now they have very different powertrain layouts and driving dynamics, but we still try to tune the car's chassis similarly and adjust that dynamics with chassis control. So for the ZR1X, the J59 brakes I was talking about before are standard. For 26, if you get the ZTK package and a ZR1, you get the J59 brake system. So after 25, ZR1 got 2 upgrades. It got an all-new instrument panel, and it got J59 brakes as available equipment. Magnetic ride control is standard. And we've tuned the ride frequencies. Brian tuned the ride frequencies, actually, for the standard ZR1 to be more approachable, more comfortable even than the standard Z06. This is the Executive Express, we call both of these cars. And then, of course, the ZTK, we take full advantage of the aero that you saw Brian driving around on the Nürburgring and the awesome Cup 2 tires together with chassis tuning to make the most out of both of the cars. More on aerodynamics. Again, both ZTK cars make 1,200 pounds of downforce at top speed. I think you've all read about or heard us talk about the big change on the ZR1, which is the flow-through hood. That helps us cool the intercoolers. Heat exchanger helps manage horsepower. That's what makes power, is being able to cool that compressed air, and it also makes downforce. So that flow-through hood is helping make front downforce that we balance with the big wing on the rear of the car. And then more to touch on cooling. Again, that hood is a primary cooling path. I told a story last night. You see the air coming over top of the car. We plan to raise the wing because that air coming over top of the car is not as dense as cooler air, therefore not as efficient for making downforce. So we wanted to get the wing out of that airstream. And that's one of the reasons why the ZR1 has a much larger, more aggressive wing than even the Z06. Also, super proud of, and we've talked a little bit about the hatch induction. It's a coupe-only feature, but the induction inlets on the hatch, when we were at Papenburg in Germany, and Mark Royce drove 233 miles an hour, those inlets were making about 26 horsepower more than what the engine makes on the dyno, because on the dyno, we certified to SAE conditions. So everyone's treated equally. But we can take advantage of actual conditions in the real world with things like the hatch air induction. Another chart for downforce comparison. So this is to level set across the Corvette lineup. 186 miles an hour sounds like a weird number. It's 300 kilometers per hour, which is sort of an industry standard. We're trying to help reinforce it. People are kind of all over the place with it. But it gives you an idea how you go from a Z51 to a ZR1, ZR1x with ZTK, the level of downforce that we're talking about. These aren't just wings screwed onto the fascia. If you've seen the rolling chassis, you can appreciate the structure underneath the wing that takes the load directly into the bumper beam. So it's not just for looks. And then some wheel options on ZR1 and ZR1x. The wheel closest to Brian is the Generation 2, we call it, carbon fiber wheel. It's a very cool piece if you get to see it in person. We've restricted it for the first ordering cycles in 25. Very few lucky people got it. We're going to open it back up again in the next order cycle for folks to order the carbon fiber wheel if they want it. This saves even more unsprung mass than the carbon fiber wheel did on the Z06. This is about 43 pounds per car. And the guys driving it on our own Milford Road course, much smaller track than the Nürburgring, have measured lap time improvements just because of the wheel. It makes a massive difference. Okay, and here's a cool picture of the asymmetric interior and stripe package, how that all runs together. All right, now what I think most people wanted to do anyway, are tired of me rambling, it's time to play Stump the Chumps. So if you've got any questions, not you. So Gary's asked the question, can you not get a comp seat? Yes, so you have a choice. What he's pointing out in this picture, for those that don't know, is there's a GT2 seat and a comp seat that I was talking about earlier. So it's not just a color difference. You can get both GT2 or both comp seats if you choose to do that. Yep. Another question? If you couldn't hear that question, it was, does it come with the stripes automatically? It does not. The stripes are another option if you choose to do stripes. So if you just want the asymmetric interior, you can get it. If you want the full exterior bleeding into it with the stripes, you can choose that too.
Can I slip in two questions real quick? Were your left foot braking the whole path?
No, I'm a right foot breaker. In fact, yeah, Drew Cattell for the longest time was the only left foot breaker, but we've got two new younger kids that are also left foot breakers. I've tried it, I'm just not good at it. I left foot brake in the wet. I can't in the dry because I like to plant my left foot in the dead pedal. Because the minute we get all that lat G, I start moving around and it messes up my internal accelerometer.
All right, do you use the paddles the whole way?
No, automatic. In fact, we get a lot of race car drivers to get in the car, and we actually ask them to just go ahead and run an automatic. Like Ron Fellows, we had to teach him to drive automatic. Ollie was okay with it, but Fellows really wanted to use paddle. I'm like, no, just stop using the paddle. The trans is always in the right gear.
This is for Brian. After watching the film, you become a hero for a lot of people. So I would ask you, who's your hero?
My father's my hero. He was sitting there, but he's not anymore.
I know.
He can say it now that he left. Yeah. Oh, Jordan's going to heckle us.
This is Stump the Chump
Here's
for
how
sure.
it starts.
Brian, I got to tell you, I'm in such awe of your driving. So you and I have talked quite a bit, and you've told me some of the tips and techniques. But just watching that video and seeing how you finessed that car around and how you made all those adjustments. So my question for you, is a person naturally born that gifted, or can you develop and become that good of a driver?
No, I think you can develop that skill, but I will say almost every driver that comes into our group that moves on to what we call as level 6, That's the highest driving level certification with GM. Allows you to go drive anywhere in the world on with any one of our cars. Almost every one of them come with racing background and/or natural ability. It certainly can be taught, but I think for some people, there's probably people that can't be taught that, if I'm being honest. And we've seen it where maybe some people come into our group hoping to do the job, and I don't want to say they flunk out, but they just don't get put in a position that they have to develop a car on a track like the Nürburgring. And what's interesting, some of you may know, for the Nürburgring, if we want to go drive the Nürburgring, we actually have to get certified by a company of Nürburgring's choice. There's 2 of them, and without that certification, we can't drive the Nürburgring during industry pool or actually the fast lap. I don't think it matters. I don't think you have to have certification. Anybody can go drive that because the track is out. We rent the track. But prior to that, if you want to run an industry pool, that's where we go and we develop the car with all the other OEMs. You actually have to have a certification to say that you can safely drive the Nürburgring so that you're safe to you and everyone else around you. Hopefully that answered your question, Jordan. I gave you more information you wanted.
I'm going to embarrass him for a minute.
Oh,
He's
thanks.
freaking gifted. I've chased him in a go-kart. He's gifted.
Thanks, Brother Tom. He's pretty gifted, too. We used to race together.
Brian, I got a question. When you go to Nürburgring, how many people does it take? What kind of a team is it? How many people?
That's a good question. If we talk about our full development trips that I referenced before, where every one of our track-capable cars we take to the Nürburgring, it's somewhere around 25 to 30 people if you include all our OEMs, you know, whether it's Bosch, Michelin, Tremec, that's 25, sometimes 30. It just really depends. When we talk about when we did our fast lap, I always get this wrong. I think it was around 13 people. Does that seem right, Lee and Jeff? Around 13? So we did a little bit of skeleton crew, which is, what was really cool about it is each car had an actual car captain. Some of you may know Chris Barber. He's our lead development engineer on the ZR1, and he's also the driver that set the the Road Atlanta fast lap in North America. And he actually was our backup driver in case anybody got sick while we were there. So he was my car captain, so it was really cool to go through that moment with him because we went to war together on that specific car to make to make that car what it was. And then Aaron Link had his own car captain, as well as Drew Cattell had his own car captain. And those guys individually managed everything about that car and what the driver was doing. And then Zach Brown, you guys, if you've seen the documentary, he was basically the captain of the whole trip. Zach and Jeff and Lee, those guys worked really close together. I mentioned that before. And nothing was approved until Zach said go. He was managing it down to the second when to release. The car would go by during our fast lap, because I mentioned we literally had 18 runs in about a 2.5-hour window, somewhere in that range. And he was managing each time every car went out. And if the tires were ready, he would call and ask for tires. So it's a pretty big effort, and there's a whole ton more detail even behind it. I mean, just starting that whole effort was started in March. We ran our laps in June. So, I mean, it's a 3-month endeavor to get everything. It takes 6 weeks to ship cars over on boat. We got to manage all the parts. So, you know, those Germans, they definitely have a leg up on us, but we showed them who's boss.
I want to ask a fun fact question. How many tires were shipped there and didn't come home?
It would have been 0 if it wasn't for the rain on the second test day. We had a use for every single tire. How many came home? Well, we had 2 test days planned, 3 cars, 6 tires a day. So that's 36 right there. And then we did some practicing in our industry pool that I referenced. We had a week-long industry pool 2 weeks before the event. And so a lot of us either took vacation in the center week or flew home. But so we were doing testing and getting reacclimated to the track and working on our tire prep procedure with Michelin, like what we wanted our pressures to be, how long we cook them in the oven, and doing simulated test runs on our last 2 days. So 36 for the actual fast lap. Yes, absolutely. Exact same tire. You go buy a ZR1, you can take it to the Nürburgring and set it up exactly where the owner's manual says. Nothing special about these cars. Yeah, bring your own oven.
All right, gentlemen, you have one more question tonight.
Yes, does wheel design have any effect on cooling, aerodynamics, or speed, or is it negligible?
Well, I think this will probably be a dual answer. I will tell you that Josh had mentioned the mass. The mass of the wheel is probably the single most benefit. And we did all these runs with the carbon fiber wheel, and it's a noticeable lap time increase using those carbon fiber wheels. As far as cooling, thermal cooling, I'm going to throw it over to you.
Yeah, you can use a wheel. I would say not so much to cool. You can use it to reduce drag. It's usually a very closed-off wheel. If you ever see, like a race car at Bonneville, how they have just the shiny dog dish wheel covers, that's a much lower drag option. We keep our wheels open for two reasons. Lightweight, that Brian said. The other is so that we can cool off the brakes. Because generally the brake ducts blow from the inside of the car out. That helps evacuate air from underneath the car anyway. But we need that openness of a wheel to help cool off the brakes. In fact, nearly all of the wheel design, though, is for mass and stiffness efficiency. You want a wheel to be really stiff, and you want it to be super light.
Thank you all.
Okay.